to start with each person giving a up to 10 minutes introduction. I gave them some questions to answer. I'm Mary Wells. Just kind of organize this. We have Jenny Pearson and Amanda Boudreau for the school committee, Chris Everett and David Pinacchioli for Board of Selectmen. And we can get started. Would anyone like to start first? Introduce yourself.
I want to work this side. Okay.
Ladies first.
Start with Jenny.
Oh, all right, I'll go first then.
They're good side, Matt.
Both sides are my good
I know,
side.
right?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Pearson. I'm running for school committee. This is the second time I am running. I did previously run before, and I had been on there for a while. I did have to step away due to some health issues. I had my thyroid removed. Thankfully, things are going much better nowadays. I have lived in Oxford since 2020. I moved in right on Main Street, a beautiful house, a beautiful yellow, so I hope, I can wave to all of you if you walk down the street. Running for school committee because I've been noticing a change in budget process and things on a political stage, both on a state level and a federal level. I obviously have concerns about the potential changes that may happen with the Department of Education, but I've mainly been focused on what things look like locally. I've seen some, I'm not sure the best way to put it, but I will say some tension between what I would consider the municipal side of Oxford and the school side of Oxford. And I am a firm believer that we are about one community. We should all work together. We should build each other up. The schools and the town side should all work to make this a great community that looks like a wonderful place for families to want to move, raise their families, bring their children up in the school system, have grandchildren move in. We want to attract businesses. We want our town to remain a gem that I see Oxford as, a beautiful community that has growth, that has the finances, and starts to really boost a school district that makes families want to move here. One of the things I think that will drive growth in a community is how well your schools are. And I think there have been some concerns that I think are not being addressed, and I think it's an interesting issue. There have been some changes in terms of the superintendent of the schools. Now we have Mr. Lucas, who I think has a lot of potential. And I personally, my main aims are to be going into meetings and asking decisions and asking for more data. I think a lot of the information that we can gather, we're not fully getting a good picture on. I hear a lot of concerns about issues in the schools, such as bullying. I've seen some of the grades presented, beginning and middle of year test grades that look shockingly low. And when I hear responses like, we believe this is due to absenteeism, my question will be, well, where is the data for that? Let's break out the students who took the testing. Let's break them out 0 to 5 absences, 5 to 10 absences, 10 to 15 absences. If that is the case, the data will support that. And I know we have the data, so bring it. When you come to the meetings, bring the data. Let's actually really focus in on what could be the driving factor to some of these issues: low test scores, low student participation. Is it a culture issue in the schools? Are students feeling supported? Are teachers feeling supported? If we have the data, we're asking the right questions and being curious and being creative in our approaches, I think that we can take an opportunity that might be challenging with the changing political landscapes, and I hope that we can weather that and come out better to address the decreasing student population in our town so we can turn things around and improve our schools. Thank you.
So I'm next. I just want to apologize. I have a little bit of a cough, allergies. Dear Oxford residents, my name is Amanda Boudreau, and I'm running for school committee. I'm excited and honored to announce that I'm running for a position on the school committee. As a parent, resident, and community member of this wonderful town, I'm deeply invested in the success and well-being of our schools. Education is the foundation of a strong community, and I believe every child deserves access to quality, inclusive, and innovative learning experiences. I'm committed to making sure our schools continue to foster a positive environment where students feel supported, teachers feel valued, and families are heard. Oxford is my hometown. I graduated from Oxford High School in 2005. Both of my grandparents, Dr. Rennie Hamill and Veronica Hamill, have been involved in town politics for most of my life, primarily the Oxford School Committee and Bay Path. My grandmother served over 30 years on the Oxford School Committee. My grandfather served over 20 years between the Bay Path School Committee and the Oxford School Committee. I currently have 2 children that attend the Oxford Public Schools. I've been on both elementary school PTOs, and I've been on parent council at Claire Barton Elementary, and I'm currently on parent council at the Oxford Middle School. In addition to my involvement in the schools, I have also coached for Oxford Youth Soccer and Oxford Little League. My children and I volunteer in the Oxford Community Garden at the First Congregational Church. We maintain the gardens by weeding, watering, and harvesting the fruits and vegetables. The reason I tell you this is because we then wash and pack them and deliver them to the Oxford food shelf. As you can see, my involvement in our community extends beyond the schools, and I have a strong commitment to the well-being of this town. As a member of the school committee, my priorities would include working together with the town and the school so there isn't such a divide, ensuring all students receive the support they need to succeed, promoting transparency and collaboration between the school systems, the parents, and the community, supporting our dedicated educators and staff in their work to inspire and to guide our children. Together, we can create a school environment that prepares our children for a very bright future. I would be honored to serve our community and work tirelessly to support the needs of our students and our educators. Thank you so much for your support. Amanda Bordeaux.
Yes.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Amanda. Awesome. I'm Chris Everett, running for selectman. Born in Dudley, moved to Oxford when I was 2. Had 2 brothers, grew up in actually 3 houses up the street from where I currently live. Bounced around a little bit from house to house in Oxford as we rented. My parents moved us out of here in 1997 due to their concern with the rise of taxes going on in this town, as well as the school system not going the way they wanted. I then graduated from Shepherd Hill. Not top of my class, but I did very well at Shepherd Hill. Bounced around a little bit when I met my significant other, and we finally decided to settle down in Oxford. Again, 3 or 4 houses down the street from where I grew up. Running for selectman because I want this town to be what it was in the good old days. I now understand why my parents and grandparents say the good old days, because they were the good old days. I'm very concerned with the way things are going. I know many of you see me on the forum complaining and commenting and whatnot, and I might not choose my words very wisely. I'm sorry about that, but I hope to do very well if elected. You know, I've had the pleasure of working with Justin these last couple of months since he's taken over, and it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Obviously, I've changed my attitude when I walk in the town hall, so that makes things better for everybody as well. I'd like to see more involvement. I'd like to see volunteering in town again. You know, I love the fact that you guys do that with the vegetables in the food pantry. That's awesome. I'd like to see more of that around if we can. I'd like to work very closely with every board, with every department head, with every town employee, as well as the ability for town employees and department heads to work with the residents. I know in the past I've gotten a pass the buck kind of a thing at the town hall with my concerns. Oh, it's the DPW. No, it's the building department. No, it's the Board of Health. Everyone should just work together. If it's a problem that I can't work with the department head and it's a state issue, then either lead me in the right direction, lead the resident in the right direction, or contact the state as a department head yourself. You have those contact numbers. Like I said, I just want to work together with everybody. I know there are some residents out there that may not love me as selectman, but I'll work for you guys too. My phone number is always out there. Everybody, for the most part, knows where I live. Stop in anytime. I'm not gonna turn you away. I'm not gonna yell, scream, and holler. If you got a problem, contact me. I know I've said, the good old boy network on the forum quite often. The good old boy network 20, 30 years ago was great, absolutely great. Didn't matter who you were or what your name was. If you called one of those selectmen with a problem, whether they were the chairman or not, they took care of it if they could. They worked with a solution to whatever the problem is. I'd like to see that now, again. Like I said, I'm gonna be available for anyone and everyone. I'm gonna work for everyone. I have no financial gain coming into selectmen. I'm minimum wage myself. I own my own business, and it's successful enough for me. I'm not a 6-figure a year salary, and I gave up that dream a long time ago. But it would be nice if we could all work together, regardless of who you are, what you make, whether you live in a $1 million home or a $250,000 home. I guess that's just about it.
Chris. First of all, I'd like to thank Mary Wells for organizing this. Thank you very much. I also want to thank you all for coming out. It's really important that people come out and hear, what we all are going to try to stand for if we do get elected. My name is Dave Canarchioli. Some of you who have kids in the town may remember me as Mr. C. I used to be Project Coffee Director for a few years, assistant principal at Oxford Middle School, and also the principal there. I live at 53 Old Haworth. I have 2 children, 2 daughters, 20 and 18. I've been in town 21 years, moved here back in 2004. I have just about to complete my 6th year on the school committee, which has really been an honor and a privilege, to be quite honest. And was really happy to be able to continue to be involved with the schools after I left here. I'm a current principal in the Wachusett Regional School District at Central Tree Middle School in Rutland. And I've been in education for over almost 27 years now, so it's been quite a while. I remember when I was interviewing in Rutland for the job, I made a statement that in order for us to educate the children to the best of our ability, we need the parents, we need the students, we need the school, and we need the community all working together. It's like that wraparound continuum. And I don't think it's any different for the town. And Chris kind of mentioned this. We need the residents, right? We need the boards and the committees, we need the town manager, and we need the state all working together. And when we all work together, we can solve these problems that not only Oxford, but a lot of towns are dealing with. If you are on Facebook, maybe you're on it, maybe you're not, but I basically have 3 kind of positions that I'm running on, 3 stances. If you believe in a strong and consistent resident voice at select board and other town meetings, then I'm somebody you should consider voting for. The Oxford School Committee is the only board and committee in this town that allows public voice. We had a meeting last night. We allow public voice at the beginning. We allow public voice at the end. Not one other board or committee in this town allows that, even though 2 years ago we voted it in. I've asked, I've suggested, if you've been to a town meeting, it gets very contentious because people have been shut up for a year. They can't speak, they can't be heard. If you reach out, it's almost impossible to get a hold of anybody at town hall. So these are things, if you want voice, that's my number 1. Greater transparency about how our tax dollars are allocated and regular communication from town hall. I will be a person who will communicate out the things that I'm hearing, the things that I'm seeing. We don't get any of that. We don't get any of that. And accountability. One of my major positions I'm running for this position is accountability to ensure that the town manager and her team are acting in the best interest of us, residents, the taxpayers. That's important. These 5 positions on the select board are voted in by us as residents. And it's important that they're hearing our voice and then projecting that to the town. So that's one thing of the 3 that I would ask you to consider. If you're interested in those things, then I hopefully am your candidate. Our town deserves leadership that listens, engages, and puts residents first. If elected, I will work diligently to ensure your voice and mine is heard and your concerns are addressed. I thank you for your time and your consideration, and I would be honored to have your vote on May 20th. Thank you very much.
I didn't actually prepare something, but I will just kind of mention very well that I am running for Oxford Housing Authority. I'm running unopposed. I'm a longtime social worker and looking forward to doing some volunteer work for the town. And I've met quite a few of the residents in the Oxford Housing Authority divisions, and I'm very excited to hopefully be able to speak up for them, get their concerns heard, and help it be a homey place where people want to live. So this brings us to questions. Now, I have question containers up here, but I don't have any questions in them. So, would people just like to ask questions? Would Kimberly like to start, since she gave me 2 pages of questions?
Yeah, hold on, I'm finding the email.
Would you hear? I printed it up. Here you go.
Oh, you are lovely, thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. Alright, so, if nobody has any objections, I'm gonna start with, the selectmen, the boards, yeah. So,
Can we ask the people to introduce themselves? You know, say who you are.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that'd be great.
I'm Kimberly Meadows. I'm just a resident here. I grew up here, and I just moved back. I own a home. I just had a baby, and I'm very concerned with what's going on in our town. So, yeah. So for both of you, I guess. Shoot, I'm really on the spot.
So hard week, so it's okay.
Yeah. Do you think our Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change that? How would you encourage more growth and business to come in there? I always noticed that, you know, where the old vape shop is now empty again. We can't seem to keep anybody in there. We constantly have a lot of like vacancies. How are we gonna fix that?
So that's a difficult one. I mean, in the current times, it's difficult to keep business anywhere.
Yes.
Again, I'm self-employed. I've had many family members that were self-employed. Some lost their businesses, some retired. I fear every day that mine could go under. It happens. We've got a huge building thing going on Route 20, up in North Oxford across from Walmart.
Oh, yep.
I've heard there's been talk of many new businesses coming in. One I'm crossing my fingers for. I'm not gonna say what it is yet, but you know, we can do whatever that we can do. We can promote, you know, businesses to come in town.
Mm-hmm.
We can reach out to other businesses in other towns to expand. You know, I know a lot of, in the past, we've done tax breaks for new big businesses. I don't agree with that. I personally don't agree with that. So, I mean, we can make things a little easier as far as the application processes go, maybe. Make things a little more friendly to get businesses in. But, you know, in the current times, I don't know if there's a lot that we can really do to expand that.
Okay.
But we can try all aspects, and again, I'm new at this, guys. I'm not, this is not who I am, but I'm gonna try it. I'm open to phone calls with suggestions. If you have ideas, call me. Say, hey, Chris, I just thought of something. I can bring it to my fellow board members if I'm elected, and bring it to zoning and see what we can do. So, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as attracting businesses to Oxford, I mean, I've seen signs across town that it pays to do business in Oxford. So, you know, I obviously would love to learn more about that, but I think My ex-wife ran a business here years ago, and I think one of the reasons we ended up having to close it was just the overhead. I mean, it's very costly just to rent a spot. Unless you own a building, it's almost impossible to keep up with the rent and all the bills, so it's really, really challenging on that end. But certainly, we would look to try to make, try to attract more businesses to town. That being said, one of my big concerns when it comes to businesses is they are part of our revenue, right? So the business tax base is part of our revenue. The resident tax base is part of our revenue. We all know what we're paying for taxes each and every year. We know where we're at, right? What I want to know, and this is part of that transparency, is what are all the businesses in this town paying? Like, we should know. We should have a list of here's what Home Depot's paying, here's what IPG's paying, here's what Market Basket is paying. And I get it, Chris mentioned it, and I get it, when you attract businesses, you probably relax the tax base for them, or maybe give them an incentive to come in. But I would love to be able to see what they're paying, and if they are. Because that's important, because it always gets put back on the resident. Like, you're gonna see, if you look at the warrant, there's 2 overrides that are gonna be asked of us all as residents and taxpayers to have to burden. One of the first things I'm going to ask for, if elected, is I want a list published for us so that all the residents can see of what each business in this town is paying for taxes. Because I think that's really, really important that we know it. So I know I segued away from how do I attract more business, because that will obviously do the reverse. But I think it's important for us as residents to know exactly what they're paying and where that money is going. So, thank you. Yep.
I'm Joanne Cutting. Live in South Oxford. Amanda knows me. I know her kids. I'm a lifelong resident of Oxford. I inherited my parents' house, and I've lived in the same house for 71 years.
Wow.
I used to be a teacher in the Oxford school systems way back when. I've occasionally run into a couple of the people that I used to teach. They now have grandchildren. So, it's quite a while. But my concern is that way back when for the town meetings, they used to publish a book, and I have several of them in my basement, that listed every town employee, every salary, every expense, what went out and what went in. I don't know when that stopped, but I'd like to see it reinstated, because
I agree.
I'm paying these people. I want to know how much I'm paying them.
If I may, can I
Yeah,
take this
go
one,
ahead.
Dave? So I noticed this too, because I have attended many town meetings in the last 6 or 7 years since I moved to the home where I'm at. And it slowly went away. First it was department by department, budget item, not the whole line item by line item. And a couple of years later, went away the department by department, and it just went, school wants this, DPW wants this, that, and the other thing. And as that went away, so did the salaries. I do believe we need to bring that back. But further than that, I've heard a lot of people, I shouldn't say attacks, but complaining about the amount of salaries go into our police officers and whatnot. A lot of those are, salaries include detail work. I think it should be itemized. So we know what we, the taxpayers, paid the salary, and then what they made extra from state with Mass DOT. Because Route 20 is sucking up a lot of detail work right now with our officers. So if we bring that book back for this year, some of those officers made some great money, and most of it was detail work. I think it shouldn't just be, just they made this much this year. I think it should be, they made this much on patrol, they made this much on details for National Grid, Charter Communications, Route 20 Mass DOT.
Because those items are reimbursed by the
Correct, those,
So it's not.
it's
an
not coming
expense.
out of our
My father
budget.
was a cop for
Right.
30 years.
No, right.
I know
No.
the police department.
No, exactly, so I think, you know, putting that in there, they need to add that, because a lot of people will just see that final number and go, how is a patrolman making $140,000 a year? Well, that's how they're making $140,000 a year.
But they're not being paid by the town.
Well, they're being, the town is being reimbursed, because they get one paycheck every week, it doesn't, but the town is being reimbursed by the state, by National Grid, by, you know, Charter, or what do we call it now, Spectrum, or whatever, or tree companies, and there's a lot of tree work going on in town as well, and a lot of that is, you know, National Grid, or even personal. I had a couple trees down a couple years ago, I had to hire a detail, so that would have been in the detail line item.
I just want to answer your question simply. Absolutely. Transparency is one of the 3 things I'm running on. It should be absolutely published. It will definitely not happen this time around, because neither of us will be on the board to make a push, plus everything's, I'm sure, published already and printed. You can go, not only do other towns do this, you can go to the Telegram and Gazette, and all the towns around us publish the top 25 earners, salary earners in all their towns. Like, this is the piece of transparency. I'm looking at the warrant, and, you know, I'm new to a lot of this stuff. I can't even find where we're voting for the budget on here. Like, it doesn't even clearly say. It's just like, things aren't clear. Things aren't transparent, and that's one thing that I will fight for. That should be published every single year. We all have a right to know.
And having been in it for
Yes, I
several
was in it
years,
too. Yes,
having
I'm
people
with you.
going and saying,
Again,
is
can I-
that all you made?
Do you mind if I add a little something? Again, like you said, the books. I remember the first town meeting I went to was a book, and it showed the budget items, not individual warrant article items. It was, you voted on the budget, and it had the budget numbers. You're right, Dave, I see no numbers on this warrant for the town meeting, none. It just, everybody wants, but I see no numbers of how much they want. So I agree with you, and believe me, that is one of the things that I will be working, if elected, and I'm sure I'll work very closely with Dave on a regular basis to make sure we can do what we can to make that happen again.
Thank you. Question for school committee candidates?
I have a question for the school committee. I'm Susan Seibel. Both of you have written addressing my comments on the Oxford Residents Forum, not in agreement with me. But I was very upset when the town passed the override with the $500,000 out of the emergency fund, because it was for an ongoing expense instead of a one-time expense. So they added all these teachers who were added during COVID, and there was no plan on how to continue to budget. So it just spiraled after that. And I would like to see some money in the town put to other things. There was a woman who got up at the town meeting and said, I paid taxes for 50 years, I don't have any children, and I'd like to see more money go to the senior center, and she was booed by all the parents. It was so rude. And I'm actually tired of the school committee whining and complaining. I was a teacher. I understand what it takes, and every good teacher pays for it. I don't care how much money is allocated, you always pay for things out of your own pocket. So to budget for an ongoing expense out of the emergency fund, I think was irresponsible. And there is no way to continue that funding as far as I could
Could
see.
you put this in the form of a question? for
What
the-
would
for
you
the school
do,
committee?
what are you gonna do about that? I mean, I don't know what's been done, how to keep, are those teachers gonna be laid off now?
As of right now, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but as of right now, with the way that, with the money that is supposed to be allocated from the schools, that the town has asked for the schools to make those cuts, a lot of the support teachers, such as the reading specialists and everything, some of them are being eliminated. I know about 5 positions that have gotten their pink slips just at the elementary schools alone. So with that being said, I know the town meeting is tomorrow night, and there's gonna be questions that are gonna be asked. I think what's important in our environment right now with how the world is going, we have to make do with what we have currently. I'm lucky enough that I'm married and me and my husband both work full-time. I'm very fortunate. That's not the case for most of Oxford. Over 35% of Oxford is low income. So when people break it down to it's $7 a week or it's $7 a month, that's a package of chicken at Market Basket. That's a meal that you could be taking away from people. So I think what we've all heard, what's to come, more cuts are gonna be coming down the line. Right now is a chance where we need to start being frugal and we need to make do with what we have right now because it's gonna get a lot scarier before it gets better. And it's not just for the schools, it's for the town also.
Right.
You know, so that's why I think it's important for the town and the school committee to really start working together and not having that divide. I remember seeing you were sitting in one of the first or second rows, and I saw you speak to a couple of people that were behind you at that last meeting, and you asked them very nicely to stop booing and to shouting, and I remember being embarrassed of how people responded to you. When we're at the town meeting, all of us as residents, there should be a mutual respect. So the fact that, and I remember who the person was that went up, she's a long-term resident, her name was Rose, and I know her because I know most of Oxford, and I remember her saying, and she wasn't being mean when she said it, she just said, I've lived here for this long, everyone wants more and more to the schools, but what's gonna happen to me? That's what I didn't see it as a dig, I saw it as a true concern, because we do have an amazing, the senior center is amazing and they have amazing programs, but not a lot of us even know about them, because there isn't someone to run their social media, you know, to get it out there for everyone. So I think right now it's really time to buckle down and to make do with what we have, and that we all have to be a little scrappy and figure stuff out together as a community, not just be a huge divide. I think that's important, so, but I feel like you agree too, so.
Jenny, do you want?
I will just say, I am in complete agreement with you. I didn't get to be at that last meeting. When it comes to between my husband and I, he tends to be slightly louder. You all often find him on Facebook, so I tend to stay home with the kids if we need to split child rearing duties so he can go and be opinionated. I know that he is generally a fair representation of how I might feel. Not always, but you know, we do what we can. But I did make my feelings known at a recent school committee meeting when the budget hearings came up for discussion. I told them that I felt fairly embarrassed by how things have happened. A few years ago, when I had been on the school committee, I remember watching the superintendent and the town manager working together to put together the information we needed to get to the residents so that you all understood fully what the school committee would be asking for in terms of the debt exclusion that we would need in order to get the funding to properly fix the schools. When the roofs are leaking and the foundations are going, this is vital capital infrastructure that needed to be maintained. We needed to make sure we had the funds, and they both worked well together to make sure that that information was presented in a way that everybody had access to it. Since then, I've seen a degradation in the way in which information is presented to residents. It ends up being confusing, it ends up seeming divisive, and I felt it was honestly a little bit embarrassing. I did say to the school committee, we knew that the ESSER funds, that grant money would be running out. We knew that the teachers that money was going to be funding would be going away. And we read article after article when other school districts had to let teachers go. And I love teachers and I love what they do for the schools, but many of those teachers came in expecting those positions to not be permanent. And now when we're facing the kinds of budget challenges that we are, much to do with the increase in health benefits, those extra staff numbers translate to higher benefit numbers, which are already exploding. And now to be asking for an override on top of that, when we have already changed the budget process from last year, I don't think it's appropriate for the school committee to just say, we're not working with town manager, we're gonna come in and ask the town themselves to go and on a whim, without having had the preparation we've had, to vote yes or no on whether or not they want to let us upend the entire budget process that every other department goes through. And I find that to be inappropriate. We have months to go through the process. We have a lot of interesting community members who are willing to give their input, and we have time to think of the creative solutions that we need to. We knew that some of these crunches would be coming. We weren't prepared for the health insurance increases that have now thrown off the town budget, but we can't keep increasing the budget in the school departments the way we have been. We have obligatory numbers that we need to meet, just based on how the negotiations have gone with the teachers, the members of a union. We have to meet certain obligations. And when I look at the numbers of the schools and the students who have been leaving steadily well over the past decade, we've been losing students repeatedly over and over. Yet our budget has been higher and higher. Our student to teacher ratio is the lowest it's ever been, except during the COVID years. We're looking at about 11 students per teacher in terms of full-time equivalents if you look on the DC website. Now, if we look at the numbers and in terms of what we're expecting the town to do, we can't keep expecting the town to never be able to pull back and say, hey, we need to focus on some roads, we need to focus on some capital infrastructure. So I think it takes a lot of asking questions, pushing on the things that we haven't been asking, taking a look at the data, because I don't see that the numbers have translated to better test scores, to more students wanting to move in, to more families wanting to move in. And I think this is where we really get to the nuts and bolts, is what does the data show us? Why are the students leaving? Why are people school choicing out? And how can we actually be more creative with the monies we have to make sure we're spending it in a way that translates to what we want our schools to look like?
Yes,
That answers
yes, I'm on the
Yeah,
current
just
school
as
committee
a-
I'm
converted.
chomping at the bit as well.
First of all, thank you for the question, Sue. I would just like to help clarify a couple things, because I think a couple things may be intertwined. The ESSER money, the ESSER funding that coming out of COVID was given to districts to support kind of the reintegration of in-person learning and try to close gaps. We as a school committee clearly knew that that money we were getting was gonna go away and it wasn't gonna be sustainable. So what we tried to do over the next few fiscal years was to build in a position or two each year so that we could stay staffed where we were at. Prior to COVID, we were understaffed, okay? So we were trying to build that back in. What happened last year, so we weren't trying to add new positions on the fly. We were trying to integrate because we knew ESSER was going away. What happened last year was we ended up, so there's what's called held harmless. Districts are held harmless if your enrollment goes down. So this year, almost over 250 districts of the 317, I think, or 315, are being held harmless. So that means a lot of districts' enrollments are going down. It's not just Oxford. So when you get held harmless, you get $75 per kid. That's it, of an increase, okay? So that's where Oxford is. That's where a lot of districts are. So what happened last year was we were one of a handful of districts in the state that enrollment went up, and with our socioeconomic status, we got 1.2 million in funding. The superintendent went to the town manager to talk about that and work out a plan. And it didn't work out, because what ended up happening was some of that money that was earmarked for the schools got used on the town side. So the town share, all towns have to pay 100% of the town share, okay? The town of Oxford pays 109%, which we're thankful for. But that's 271st out of 321 districts in the state, okay? That's pretty low. So what the town manager did, and I clearly identified this on the form, is instead of the 109% we usually get, she lowered it to about 104%. So legally, we were still getting the money, but ethically and morally, we weren't. We were losing the money. So the money that we appropriated as a school committee last year, we fought for on town floor, and we won. What ended up having to happen was they had to use the stabilization fund, which had 2.7 million, I believe, at the time in it. Stabilization fund, there to stabilize budgets. We took money out of that to stabilize our budget. That's what we did. Fast forward to this year and creating the budget. The town manager asked us to take a 0%. We took a 0%. And with some of the revolving accounts that we have through like school choice, which is something I advocated really hard for a few years ago, and and then the attrition of a few retirements and some other cuts, we were able to cut almost $600,000. That's the zero. I would love to see anybody else try to survive on a zero. We did that. But what the town manager has then asked us to do was take $380,000 on top of that, which our committee, we voted against, a 4-to-1 vote, I think it was. Okay? So the budget that we proposed is the zero. The budget that the town manager has proposed for us is the zero plus the 380 minus, okay? Our committee then took a vote to do an override. And I voted no on the override, because I don't think it's the responsibility of the residents to have to pay for that. We took a zero. What school department in this state can operate on a zero? And I said publicly 2 or 3 times, I can accept the zero, even though it's not great, but I could not accept taking the 380 on top. That's just irresponsible of me as a school committee member. So now we've put it out to the town for the override. And that's kind of where we are. I apologize, I'm very passionate about that because I agree, I've heard a lot of this. We all have to work together. I'm gonna be flat out. The town manager in my 6 years started working with us, and each year it has gone less and less and less. And it's not about the person, it's about the position. And we have a 5-person board, now 4-person board, who does not hold the town manager accountable to any of this. And that's why I'm running. I've seen it firsthand. So I appreciate the time. I know I'm not here for school committee, but as a current school
that
committee
was
member,
important.
I felt like I could speak, and thank you for the time.
Yep.
May I just comment very shortly? Last year's town meeting,
Yeah, what's the word you used? You want to publicly say the word that you just said?
It wasn't a public comment, sir.
You just met it out
You want
publicly.
to talk to me later? We can talk
listen,
after.
you know what, hold on,
Okay, you
this
know
is,
what? I heard it, this.
Yeah,
but this is what we're
No.
talking about.
Yeah.
No,
This
but we
this
don't-
needs to stop.
We don't
yeah,
want.
I apologize.
So
We don't want
if
any-
I may,
We can disagree. Go
last
ahead.
year's town meeting, I got up and said, yeah, I'm willing to vote yes for this money to come out of the stabilization fund, but we gotta figure something out next year, because we can't keep doing this year after year after year. Now, I can remember even going to Shepherd Hill, the teachers would complain to even the students about cuts. Unfortunately, you know, the economy goes in stages. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. It doesn't matter who's president or who's in Congress, it does not matter. We need to live within our means. And, you know, like each of these said, if it means laying off a teacher or two here and there, then that's unfortunately what happens. COVID messed up a lot of things. We got a lot of free COVID money, didn't we? Then look at our gas prices, look at our food prices. We're paying all that COVID money back, one way or another. Nothing in life is free. You know, all they did was print money and give us money. They printed money, gave the schools money for teachers to help, you know, personal protection products, masks, whatever was needed. Well, COVID is over, so isn't the money. So we have to figure out what it is we're gonna do. And it shouldn't be up to the taxpayers to fund the difference, because we can't afford to, guys. We can't. And there might be a couple of residents that can, but why should they? It's their hard-earned money too. They work just as hard for their millions that they've invested as I work for my tens of thousands that I work for. Okay?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, but it's the God's honest truth. It's the God's honest truth, okay? I don't make a lot of money, but I survive. So that's all I gotta say to that. So the 2.5 override, I don't see it passing from what I can hear around town from the people that I've been talking to.
Thank you.
Anyway, so there we go. Thank you.
I wonder if I can throw in a question here.
Of
Yeah,
course
go
you
While we're on
can.
the town meeting and the overrides, there is also an override requested by the police department.
Yes,
Would anyone like to?
I would love to.
Or any?
Well, I actually I contacted the chief about said override, so I would love to communicate a little bit what my conversation
What are
with the chief.
people feeling about the overrides of town committee and the articles that are there?
Nobody wants
That's
to.
for all of you.
Yeah, nobody ever wants to put down our police and fire department, ever. Not a good idea, anyway.
Correct.
I did contact the chief and asked him why. And his exact words were, we're a conservative town and he knows it.
Did you see his presentation that he gave in front of the financial
That I did
committee?
not, unfortunately.
It was very interesting, and it was very eye-opening.
Unfortunately, I did not. I know they're requesting,
So,
What'd you say?
Chief Daniels went in, I didn't mean to interrupt
It's
you,
okay,
sorry.
go ahead, that's
Chief
good.
Daniels went in front of the financial committee and he put on a presentation in regards as why they are asking for an override. They paid for an outside audit company to come in and take a look at how many phone calls we get versus how many patrolmen we have versus the crime that's in Oxford. Just a couple of the concerns that he brought up was that there have been a couple instances at the middle school recently and at the high school where students have brought in weapons. I have a 6th grader, so I can really only speak on that, but a student brought in a BB gun and a knife with the intentions of telling students that they were going to harm people. So what happened was there was another incident where there was something very similar to the high school where another student brought in a BB gun, and the only way that Chief Daniels even found out about it was that one of the students went on the Oxford Police Department website, found his email, and emailed him to let him know, I'm very scared, there's a student who showed us that they have a BB gun, and I feel unsafe, can you please help us? He's told this story, this is how I know. So he was at the Millbury Plaza at the time because he had the day off because Chief Daniels has been working, I believe he said he's been coming in at midnight and has been working until 5 p.m. because the Oxford Police Department is so short-staffed. So he's been trying to fill that gap by working a good chunk of the day to make up for his other officers who are tired and need time off also. They've all been kind of picking up the slack, but he's the chief and he knows it's his duty and he is not complaining. He comes in, he does what needs to be done to get through the day.
but the lieutenants are doing the same thing, by the way.
Okay, well, they didn't speak, so. So Chief Daniels went through his whole, the audit process, and with the amount of phone calls that Oxford gets versus Central Mass, we were number 3 of the most populated with the crime and with the phone calls that they have to take and do the look at. So he said right now, the outside auditor said that during the day, there should be, I believe, 5 to 6 patrolmen that are on duty, and right now there's 3. And the way he breaks it down is 1 in North Oxford, 1 at the center of town, and 1 at South Oxford. And he said, unfortunately, that's also them losing out on tickets, or if there's a crime, all of them have to go to that one place. There was another incident where my son, unfortunately, about a month ago, was jumped when he was at school. When we went to after we brought him to the doctors to make sure he didn't have a concussion, we went to the police department to talk to someone and figure out what are the next steps. We had to wait 15 minutes because there was no police officers that were in the police department at the time because they were very limited staff and they were all out. Also, the Oxford Middle School never called the police department even though they're right in the front building of the middle school because they also know that they're short-staffed, is what we were told. So Chief Daniels was asking for an override because they need more staff. They're having a very hard time hiring people because of the limited budget that they have, and with the increase of phone calls that comes with it has been dire to them. So when they had this outside auditor come in, they went through and they looked at how many phone calls, how many staff you should have, how many people should be patrolling, and they gave the numbers, and Chief Daniels simplified it a little bit more so it wasn't as much as what the audit said that they should be doing. So that's why he's asking for an override. Me personally, I will vote yes for the police department override. I think when it comes to protection, when you need someone, the first people we went to after the doctors, when that thing happened to my son, we went to the police station. They're our safety net. They're the first people that show up when that BB gun and the knife were found in that 6th grade student's backpack. So for me, I'm all for the police department, but also if you get a chance to look at the financial committee meeting when he went up, the presentation was amazing and I was actually very shocked. about the information that I was told. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's
you.
okay,
Sorry.
I'm actually glad you did, because that brought some very good points that I have. So, as somebody who
Of
was.
course it did.
Of course it did, sorry. As somebody who was bullied in middle school and high school, I went to middle school in Oxford, I went to high school in Shepherd Hill. As someone that was bullied, I get it. Like, I get why certain things happen the way they happen. Doesn't mean they're right, but I understand why kids do the things they do, because kids can only take so much. I've had a couple of conversations with some parents and grandparents, and I am mortified about what happens in our schools. One of my friends' granddaughter gets bullied on a regular because she is, what's the right word I want to say? You know who I'm talking about.
Non-binary.
No.
Oh.
She is
Furry?
from a mixed race relationship,
Oh.
okay? And she gets called,
Really?
she gets called a name that should not be even in our vocabulary in 2025. And the school staff does absolutely nothing about it. Now, I told this grandparent, if that was my granddaughter, I would be at that person's parents' house, kicking in their door and fighting the parents. Because you can't, that's learned at home.
What was the issue? What?
She is called a
She's being
You don't
called.
have
a
to
not so nice name
You don't
on a
have to-
regular basis.
Race.
It's a mixed race. She was product of a mixed race
Not
relationship.
the N-word.
That would be the word, yes.
I'm just asking.
That would be the word, yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How are we fixing this problem?
That's what I'm,
As
so,
somebody that's a little person.
Yep.
My daughter is going into school, and kids are asking her.
they're mean,
And
Kids are
we need
mean.
to fix this
Yeah,
problem.
so I'm getting into that, so,
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Their kids are asking her about you, about her mom?
Yes, questions. It's not just me. It's just, like you said, somebody that's different,
yep,
they're
yep.
picked on.
They are, and again, bullying's been around since the beginning of time. It's going, there's nothing we can do to stop bullying entirely. But when bullying goes too far, like picking on someone because they're different, picking on and name calling someone because they look different, is absolutely uncalled for. I don't think that we need a school resource officer. I think we need a security guard. I honestly do. How else are they bringing in a BB gun? Like, how the heck do you bring in a BB gun? And
You open up the backpack.
oh well, listen, I know that. You are an active parent with your kids.
Yes.
Don't tell me you don't look inside your kid's backpack on a regular
I
basis.
check it.
There you go. So, I
But
was
not
I was a latchkey kid, so
right.
I get it.
It goes the same way with high school. All these kids bringing in vapes and weed
Yeah,
and
well,
drugs.
listen.
They're getting it in.
So you know what? I'm sorry, Dave. You're not gonna like me because of this. Suspend the kids. Suspend the kids. Enough is enough. And this is going on. Please, one, please. This is going on in every single school that we have, and it makes me absolutely sick. In 2025, we have these kind of things going on in our schools. It just
Do you
I-
want
it
to
makes me
talk?
sick.
Could I just?
Makes me
yeah,
sick.
I
Makes me
just-
sick.
Please, let's-
I just want to make one comment as a principal of a school myself, and then I'd like to steer the conversation back to overrides.
Yes.
There are laws and regulations on the books for anybody out there whose child is dealing with any sort of bullying, any sort of sexual harassment, any sort of racial discrimination, anything. What I find with a lot of parents and kids is they don't want to come forward because they're afraid of retribution, they're afraid it's going to get worse, and that's kind of the culture they're in. I'm advising anybody who's listening or anybody who knows anybody dealing with it, you have to report it. I just did a bullying investigation today at my school. You have to report it, you have to do that in order for the process to start. Some people just say, well, I'm just gonna take it, I'm gonna deal with it, it's gonna get over, it's gonna be done with. No, you have to file those reports, okay?
That's how kids snap. The ones that say, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna take it.
Exactly.
And they
You
snap,
have
and
to-
they snap.
You have to file the reports. I can tell you, talking about suspensions, not to get into too much, about 10, 12 years ago, the courts basically took away any power the schools have to file any charges on kids. Like, to suspend, you have to, there's like progressive discipline. It's very, very complicated and hard just to suspend. To me, it's all about education. So to the woman in the back, we do things in our school, we do different educational programs regarding disabilities of certain students, whether it's autism, ADHD, because kids will see somebody walk down the hall and they don't know why the kid is yelling or screaming. So to me, it's about education, but it goes about the wraparound, because it takes all of us. It takes the communities, the parent, the student, and the school all working together on that. So I just would like to comment on overrides real quick. My opinions on overrides, we have Prop 2.5, so your revenue can only go up 2.5% every year, right? When overrides get put on a warrant, I always vote yes for them because, let me say because, it gets it on the ballot. I think it's fair for it to go on the ballot and then let everybody who has the opportunity to go up and vote yes or no. So really at town meeting, you're not voting it in as passed, you're voting it in as the opportunity to get it on the ballot. So I think everything should be allowed on the ballot.
And if I may real quick, Dave, we spend an awful lot of time at town meetings discussing the overrides, and that's why they go till 1 AM. It, like he said, it's not passing the override, it's just getting the override to the ballot to let, you know, the 1,100 voters that vote yay or nay, not the 200 that show up at town meeting.
Right, so it's just about putting it on the ballot. The other thing that needs to change, obviously, is the formula. The funding formula in particular for schools is so outdated. So I know as the school department, we were working on that. We had Senator Fatman in, we had Rep. McKenna and Frost. And they just gave us some potentially good news that we told them what some of the things we need. So they're maybe giving the schools some money to get some of the Chromebooks and stuff, so that would come off the need that we need out of the general budget. So things like that are helpful. But here's the other thing about overrides. Like, it's the reality that we sit here and we say every year, schools ask for this. It's mostly schools, but the other departments need other things too. And when you only go up 2.5% every year, you can't manage. So I have some other ideas about overrides, because we're definitely gonna need to raise the Prop 2.5. One of the things I wanna ask for an idea is I would love a list of any person who's been in this town 25 or 30 years and more, who own their home, who are on fixed incomes. We should be able to exempt those people from an override, right? So lock you in, because you know what you get for income all the time. Lock you in and see what how would that affect the town overall if we did pass an override? What would that look like? Because I think these are conversations that I've asked Ms. McKenna and Mr. Ledoux when they were in front of us. What is the town doing? What is your plan? Like, that's your job. What have you done different? It's the same thing every year. Yeah, we know we're getting 2.5%. We know the schools are gonna ask for this. We know it's gonna be the schools against every other department. I even asked the town manager one day when we were reviewing it, it's the school health insurance and the town health insurance. Why isn't it everyone's health insurance? We're all the same. So we need to be thinking differently. Like, I work full-time. I can afford to pay higher, do I want to? But I can afford it. It's gonna, like somebody said, it might cut me out going out to eat one day or a week or this or that. But people who have been here, who've dedicated their life to this town and they have property and they own it, I think we should consider locking them in at a rate. They deserve it. You can't ask people on fixed incomes to pay more if they're not getting more themselves. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Can I comment real quick on?
If it's okay, I heard a few concerns. I just wanted to see if it was all right if Amanda and I just threw out really quickly. I don't want to speak for Amanda, but I believe both of us do have very similar concerns. I personally have had children who have had bullying. I've seen issues with bullying and even sexual harassment that have not been addressed properly by the schools. I've heard a lot of parents, some of which are very known to me, some I've only heard stories through secondhand, that haven't had their addresses concerned properly by the schools. And I happen to know that both Amanda and I have heard similar stories, have had similar situations, and I do believe that there is a cultural issue. As students get older and they go into middle school and then high school, I do believe that this is part of why we may have students who want to leave the school district. They don't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable, the changing climates and things. I think this is something that whether you vote for Amanda, whether you vote for myself, both of us really, really do
Our heart's
both
in the right
feel
spot for
incredibly
that.
strongly about this, that we have to be looking at the culture and making sure that safety is absolutely the priority in the schools. And addressing the concerns and parents who are saying, I am making the reports and I am not having them.
Still not
passed."
getting.
And that's unacceptable, that's
Could I-
unacceptable.
if that could, respectfully, if that's happening, then you go to the superintendent. The superintendent.
Oh,
can-
Dave, I did.
Okay, then you go to the Department of Education, and you can find, you can file a PRS complaint. It's
It
called.
got
doesn't
handled
exist
as,
anymore.
Although they exist.
Not for
Good luck,
long.
but
They exist.
you know what, Dave, I
But
said
you can
this.
file those PRS complaints.
Dave, I've said this to you a couple of
and then
times in
bring
our conversations recently. I'm old school. I had my teachers discipline us when we were
okay.
not so good.
Different.
Discipline, no, then discipline needs to happen at home. If you know your if you know your child's a punk, then you need to handle your child being a punk.
Okay, I want to go back
Sorry.
to Kimberly and then Ralph, I think. Have your hands up.
So just moving off of like overrides and bullying and all of that, both of you guys and you as well, you keep talking about what you want to do and how you're going to come in there and how you're going to get things done. How are you going to do that? How are you going to work with your other board committee members, like especially you two, who have been very vocal on the
Yep.
Facebook page? Like, how are you going to?
I'm gonna go before them because I'm gonna speak quicker. So-
I love
I'm friends with every person that's on the school committee. I'm currently on parent council for the Oxford Middle School, and I'm also the vice president of the PTO of Chafee. My son was at Barton, my oldest one was at Barton for 4 years because that's when this COVID shift happened, and so I was very fortunate to get close. Becky Zernicki was my English teacher and one of my coaches when I was in high school. So I know every principal, I know 90% of the staff, and I know most of the students just from coaching and being involved. I know right off the bat, when I have a question, if I don't get it from point A, I go directly to point B, then C, then D, and then, so I get the full spectrum of things. I know things, and I know who has a classroom, who's teaching, who's not teaching, who could be teaching. I know what things could be shifted. So my whole thing is, this is my personality. When I want something done, I just go full force, and I just advocate for it.
And
I
keep
have
asking until you get your.
Yup, I
You
don't
just gotta
stop.
keep moving,
I
yeah.
don't stop.
You're
Not
not
that I
wrong.
want like money, but like there needs to be a change. And that was my biggest thing, is that this was my son's first year in middle school. And there's been a significant change since he's stepped foot day one in there, because I don't like the culture of the middle school. I didn't understand it, and it was very uncomfortable to me. And now but even as a parent, like I didn't understand the way that things worked. And then so I suggested what should happen for the new parents that come in for the 6th grade, and what apps they should get on their phone, and how to keep them in the loop of things, because it is very confusing and overwhelming, just the age alone, never mind, everything else, right? So I'm very well intertwined with all the schools, and I'm gonna maintain that way, even if I move from my role from being parent council and PTO. If I do get elected to be on school committee, I'm gonna maintain that, because I know a lot of the people that are on the school committee, they work outside of town. I work in town, I work remote, and I have a very flexible schedule. So if you need me, I'll be right there. That's just how I work, though. I'm instant gratification.
My very, very, very,
Are you
very
sure gonna be able to-
I know, I'm
My
sure.
very
Yeah.
short response is, in my short time that I did serve on the school committee, and I believe going forward, I'm just the kind of person where, even if I don't agree with what somebody is fighting for, I see them and I see the passion and the care, the very real reason and the very real concerns of why they're pushing for it. If you remember to take a moment and see what it is that people are asking for, what they're fighting for, or where they're coming from, then ultimately you can see them as a person and you can work with anyone.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
it.
And I think this
10
was
seconds.
more
All right,
for the
all right,
Board
I'm
of
holding to it.
Selectmen people.
Yeah, 10
Yes.
seconds, start the countdown. It's all about relationship building. So you asked how I would try to get along with other board members. Just forge relationships, and hopefully we can have mutual respect, communication, and hopefully problem solve. Like, we may not all have the right path that we want to go, but we got to do what's best for the residents.
Okay, love that.
So I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I've said this many a times on the forum. If I'm elected, I'm one of 5. I can tell you just like the president, all day long. I'm gonna do. Without Congress, the president can't do nothing. Without the support of my 4 other board members, there is nothing I can do. That's not my job as selectman, is to do what I want. My job as selectman is to do what you want me to do. So, whether you vote for me or you don't, just know you can contact me. You can do whatever, say, hey Chris, I'm concerned about this, can we bring it up? I will do my absolute best to get it brought up to my fellow board members for a discussion to see what it is that we can or can't do. As far as working with other boards, my neighbor's on the ZBA, so I've got a contact there. Obviously, I'm pretty friendly with Amanda. If Amanda gets elected, I've got a contact on the school committee. Matt Pearson and I have done some conversations in the last few months. I think I've built kind of a decent relationship there. So if Jen's elected, I've got that contact on that. Like he said, building relationships. We all need to work together. Town manager is currently on medical leave. If she comes back, I hope to be able to work together with her to make this town what it needs to be. I know it's been not happened in the past with her and I, but I will do my absolute best.
What do you mean?
Oh yeah, well, listen, I speak my mind, I'm sorry. But again, if I can't, there's 4 other board members that might be able to. I know there's at least 2 or 3 that talk to her on a regular basis. You know, Russ Rowe, I've known Russ Rowe my entire life. He photographed my parents' wedding, went to school with my parents. I've talked to Russ many times as moderator, as now selectman, so I know I can communicate with Russ if I have an idea or have a concern. You know, obviously if Dave's on with me, Dave and I can address things together. Dave and I don't always agree on everything. There's a lot of things that we actually disagree on. But it's not about what we want as a board, it's not about what the school committee wants as a board, it's what the taxpayers, the residents want us board members to do. The term strong town manager has been used quite a bit in the last couple of years. I don't believe that should even be a thing. I believe the 5 board members should be the ones that are creating everything and making sure things are done the way our current policies are. It's his or her job as town manager to follow through with those policies. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, did you have a question, Ralph?
Well, I didn't raise my hand,
Oh,
but there is something I guess I should.
Well, someone else
There's a lot
raised
of
it.
talk about
Go
cutting
ahead.
services because of budget constraints, but I want to talk about the revenue side and how we can bring in more revenue without hitting up residents. Now, my understanding, I've been in Oxford since 1987. During that time, I saw Walmart go in, I saw Home Depot, I saw Market Basket, IG Photonics. These are major businesses.
Huge.
And
Yep.
I'm curious how much they're contributing to our community.
Can I actually?
Well, just before I commented on that earlier, that's one of the first things I'm gonna ask. I wanna know exactly what they're paying for taxes. Each and every one, we have no idea. We have no idea. I also wanna know about the meals tax. Where does that money go? What are we pulling in for that meal tax? So those are things that I would ask for, because I agree with you.
Didn't they just change the tax rate?
They did.
For the businesses?
So they did. We actually have a dual tax rate, which
Yeah.
I have been telling the selectmen that I think is a great idea for at least the last 4 or 5 years. They do it in other towns. It is a great idea for a separate tax rate, especially when you give new businesses a TIF to come into town or a tax break to come into town. If you're having the same tax rate as a resident, and a resident wants to build an addition, why not give the resident a tax break for a couple of years on his or her new addition, like you did IPG? Now, to answer your question of how big businesses contribute, I do believe IPG does a lot more than just the taxes for the town. I believe they give it to the schools in the past.
They give a lot.
I believe
to the schools.
they bought
IPG.
the fire department
Yeah,
something in years past as well. Like they do go above and beyond, and that's great, but they should still pay their fair share in taxes as well.
IPG is huge to giving back to the
They
schools.
are, and I've heard
Swiss
that.
Turn,
Yep.
Walmart, Market Basket now.
Now, quickly, to go back, you mentioned Walmart, and someone mentioned something about override for the police department.
Yeah.
Most of our calls are Walmart, Home Depot, and Orchard Hill. I have a police scanner in my living room. I don't sleep at night. I listen to it all the time. Yes, they pull people over, write tickets. Walmart, 100 times a day, they're running up there for theft. Home Depot, they're running for theft. Orchard Hill, they're running for loud music, whatever it might be. Those are our 3 biggest reasons for our calls, are those 3 areas. I know Orchard Hill is looking to expand. Maybe there's something that we do with Orchard Hill and go, listen, you guys are gonna have to give us money for another officer. We come up here so much.
I don't have any fun.
Well, that's not my problem. That's not my problem. You asked me how to figure things out. That's just a suggestion. Again, Walmart, same thing. I do know that Walmart does pay for a detail during the holiday hours for certain times of the night for an officer to be there and walk through the store to deter. But they pay for that.
Correct.
They don't pay for every call that comes through.
Correct.
Real quick, fire department's asking for a few things too. I've had multiple conversations with the fire chief, whether I like him or not. He does. You only have chief, not deputy chief.
Okay.
They want a new SUV. There was want of another fire truck that did not make the cut. Very upset about that because we need a new fire truck. I know that we get money for ambulance calls from insurance companies and stuff like that when we transport patients. I haven't had a chance to ask him this, but my question is, when we show up at a fire and we spend 8 or 9 hours fully staffed at a fire, do we bill the homeowner's insurance for that fire? Or is that something we just offer out of our taxes?
That's taxpayers.
That's taxpayers.
Okay, Mary knows.
So, thank you, Mary. I don't know if that's something we can look into changing to have the fire department basically be self-sufficient instead of us funding the fire. Again, it's just, you guys don't attack, please. It's just a suggestion. That was.
I wanted to go to Heather.
Go ahead, sorry.
Heather, yes.
Hi, I'm Heather Tompkinson. I just want to thank everyone for being here. This is a much
thrilled.
livelier meeting than I was expecting tonight. So thanks everyone for showing up. This is great. So back to what the select board can actually do to affect change. I mean, going to a select board meeting, it's often about this check came in. These people need approval for a parade. There are some agenda items, and it doesn't look to me like a whole lot of change. So what do select board members actually do? You go second.
Okay. All right. I'm chomping at the bit.
What does the select board in this town actually do to affect change?
Well, that's a good question. I won't speak to what current board or any other boards are doing, but what I envision. So if you're the chairman of the board, you really have power of the agenda. So you can control the agenda. And what I feel has happened is the town manager has had chair people in charge, and they're basically setting the agenda. So one of the things that I would like to see, like we do it at school committee meetings, we have members forum at the end where each member of the school committee can speak, ask for requests. We can ask requests to the superintendent. So those are the types of things like I said, one of the first things I want to know is what are the businesses paying for taxes in town? So that's a request that I would put through to the chair. But the chair has to be open enough to allow the select person's voices to be heard. And the select person voices are your voices and our voices, right? That's not heard. So that's one of the things I'm running on. So you're right, you look at that bare bones agenda and you're right, it's approving this. I went to a couple meetings recently and they're done like in 25 minutes. It's just approving. Like there should be other substantial conversations happening. Like looking into how are we gonna raise more revenue, right? I've never seen any of that on an agenda. We should have public comment on these agendas. So to answer your question, right now, I don't think there's anything moving it. That's part of the reason I wanna get on, is to try to move that. But again, it's gonna take a majority of the committee to wanna do that and the chairperson to wanna do it. And that's gonna be the struggle. Okay.
So, I have campaigned previously with other selectmen, Tim Moriarty as well. And during Tim's time as selectman, he was told that they are a
Sorry.
policy board
I'm just gonna work up that.
and they do policies and parades. And I said to Tim, well, that's really downgrading and belittling our selectmen. Because I think they have the ability of being more than that. I have been to many selectmen meetings where I would not call it a selectmen meeting, I would call it a town manager's meeting. Because she speaks more than the selectmen does. And I think that's wrong. I think the selectmen have the power to do a lot, but again, like Dave said, you need the majority. We all need to work together. Whether you like each other, or there's conflicts, or there's personality conflicts, or whatever, you need to work together to benefit the town. And that's your job in any board, is to benefit the town, not benefit yourself.
Okay, so how?
You know, I don't have an answer for you, because if I don't have the cooperation of at least 2 other selectmen, it'll never happen. You need a majority to do anything. So Dave and I get on, Dave and I fight to the death to better the town. The other 3 sitting selectmen are gonna vote no. Unfortunately, it's no. So it's up to the taxpayers, the voters, to reach out to those other selectmen, whoever they might be. I really wish Josh could have been here tonight, because it would have been nice to have a 3rd selectman's opinion on this. It's up to you guys to reach out to them and go, what's going on? Why am I noticing this? I remember watching selectmen meetings when I was much, much younger, and there was somebody else on the meeting who I have known my entire life and I love and respect. Things were great back then when he was on the board. Things got done. It wasn't just parades. It wasn't just, yup, stamp, rubber stamp things. Discussions happened. Questions were answered. I don't know if anybody saw the post from Tim Moriarty of the selectmen meeting that happened Christmas Eve. It was a hurry, rush. No questions were asked. It was a 10-minute meeting on civil service. And it was up to the selectmen to vote to remove one of the civil service votes that we voted on at town meeting. And afterwards I asked Russ, I'm like, what was that about? You didn't ask any questions. Well, you know what his answer to me was? Well, Joe McKenna and the town manager advised me to vote this way, so I did. That is absolutely wrong. First of all, our town manager should not be advising the selectmen on how to vote at all.
When's his term up? Russ Rowe.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I don't know the answer to that. I believe he's only been on for a year.
Okay, so how do you actually work with the current select?
Communication. And again, if they don't, I mean, look at previous ones. Look at Tim Moriarty. Look at Robert King. Like Robert King or don't like
Okay,
Robert
but
King.
how would you actually?
I can try my hardest
To work with
them, but if they won't work with me, what would you like me to do?
I want
Would
to
you
know-
like
I
me to
want
be,
know-
would you like me to be my usual self
I would
and
like to
snap?
know-
Okay, so, I'm sorry,
I would like
okay,
to know
so.
what your actual plan is for working with the people you would be on the board
Very
with to affect
difficult to
change.
come up with a plan with a current board that won't work with anybody as it is. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
But don't you have candor with Russ Rowe?
I do have candor with Russ Rowe, so I'm hoping, and I listen, every time I've ever called Russ Rowe, he's either answered or texted me back or called me back, and, you know, he's had some stress going on, and it took him a few days to get back to me recently, but he did get back to me. To answer your question, I'd love to see Russ Rowe as the chairman, because I do believe
Yes.
that I can communicate with Russ to make things happen. I cannot communicate with Mark Lee, I already know that, but I'm gonna try. And who else is on? John Yule. Yeah, good luck with that one as well. So, I mean,
All right, I don't
I'm
wanna
open to
get into-
suggestions if you have
I don't want
ideas.
personal,
I
okay.
just
Stop.
wanted to
Come on.
answer
Go
that
ahead, Dave.
because it's a great question. You know, I meet with teachers often in my line of work, and what I steer the conversation to back a lot, because there's frustration, there's anxiety, there's this. I always steer the conversation back to what's in the best interest of students. So really what I would ask the board members when I'm working with them is bringing suggestions forward, whether they're my own or from the constituents of the town. And I would ask and challenge them, what's in the best, like these things we're bringing to you, are what's in the best interest of the residents? Not what's in the best interest of the town managers, it's what's in the best interest of the residents. So creating those relationships and then steering the conversation back to what's best for the residents. Because to me, the select board's job is to oversee the town manager. Not agree with her and stamp off on everything, oversee her, evaluate her, give her feedback, him or her, whoever it is. Like, that's our job. There's probably gonna be a lot of things that we agree on. But again, to answer your question, I would steer to try to get the other board members, this is about the residents. They're the ones who elected us, right? So let's push back on that. That's what I would try to steer the conversations.
Great. Thank you. Matt, you have a question.
Hi, I'm Matt Pearson, the Vice Chair of the Planning Committee. Question for the Select Board candidates. Well, first, just a quick comment on revenues. If people have questions about that, please feel free to talk to me afterwards. On the planning board, I know a lot about that stuff. Raising revenues, variable tax rates, things like that, those are all state regulated. So I'm just telling you right now, you can't have a separate tax rate that isn't covered by the state for seniors or people who've owned a house for 50 years. Second, revenue from the businesses in town, most of it is property tax. That is public record, anyone can look it up. Sales tax, things like that, excise, that all gets pooled by the state, and well, not excise, but the sales tax gets pooled by the state and a portion of it comes back to us. It's a complicated formula, I will not bore you. The meals tax is actually a line item. The meals tax surcharge, the additional 0.75%, that actually does show up on our budget. You'll see it. So you'll see that. But my question for the board is, there are other things we can do with revenue. There are other things we can do with growth. Prop 2.5 ties our hands on an awful lot of stuff, from the school to the town. And we don't want to put more burden on town taxpayers. But what I think you guys can do as a board that I haven't seen our current board do is use the policy function of the board. How many new policies or how many updated policies have we seen from, I mean, I'll go back 5 or 6 years, so I'm not even going to pick on the current people on the board. I'm just going to say, since I've lived in town, very few policies have been updated. And you say, well, policy, what's that? A policy could be the town manager has to give a quarterly report on progress on things to the board. Okay? That's a policy. That also affects how the town manager does their job. Another great policy I think you guys should do, feel free to steal this one, whoever wants to. Other towns do this. The discussing things at the end of the meeting gets a little bit sticky, as I'm sure people who've served on boards know, because if it's not an item perceived to be on the agenda, you can have a problem with open meeting laws. That said, you guys could create a policy, if you give one more person to do it, that says a simple vote, majority vote of the board can put an item on a future agenda. You can do that. I think that would be an awesome thing for the towns. Because right now, and this is every board, not just the Board of Selectmen, and this is Massachusetts state law, it's not something we do weird in Oxford, the chair has total control of the agenda. But the chair can assent to a policy that says, hey, if the majority of the board wants something on the agenda, we'll talk about it. And I think that would be a great thing, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I actually have a plan for that in place, and I've told this to Dave many of times. This is why I'd like to see Russ Rowe as the chairman. At the end of my first meeting, I do intend to put a motion on the table to be voted on by the selectmen to have a discussion and a public hearing on some sort of public comment at selectmen. And I expect it to get shut down the first meeting. But guess what? I'm stubborn. I'm gonna do it at the end of every single selectmen meeting until we can at least have an open discussion involving residents as well. So I want it to be a public hearing. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? What are your concerns? I know previous boards have been concerned about public comment because it can get out of hand. Freedom of speech comes in. Other towns are being sued because they've quieted other people up for their opinions, and they're winning. Towns are losing. I forget the town, but I can get you the...
Southborough.
Thank you. There you go. Again, you can't get up there and attend public comment like I do at town meeting every year and start screaming at the top of your lungs. But
We're not gonna do that.
if I could be heard on a regular basis at town meeting, I mean at selectmen meetings and other boards, the chances of me doing that are probably very slim. because I can be heard on a regular basis. And I've said this to many boards, most people just want to be heard. Yeah, you know what? If you came up and talked to me about a concern, and I sat there and I just yesed you to death, but I gave you 2 or 3 minutes to vent respectfully about your concern, the chances are that's good enough for you. To keep you calm. Do you know what I'm saying? But when you're told on a regular basis, no. I mean, yes, I can call up Russ Rowe right now, he'll probably answer me. I can talk to Russ Rowe about a concern. Russ Rowe is only 1 of 5, 1 of 4 currently. And like you said, the chairman controls all. And I don't even believe it's the chairman. I do believe it's the town manager that controls all.
If I may make a comment on that,
Yep.
town council's given legal advice to the board not to allow public comment, and they actually have a policy to accept legal input from our town council. So I'm just making you aware in case you
and
didn't.
I get that, and I understand why town council is doing it. However, the people have spoken at town meeting. We voted it in to be accepted.
The Attorney General shot that down.
Oh, okay, I was not privy to that information,
For
so thank you.
the select board.
For the select board.
Yes.
So maybe instead of having a public comment, I know,
Well, let me clarify, Chris, I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
I don't mean to talk over you.
that's okay.
They shot down mandating it through a town vote because of separation of powers between the legislative and executive function. The board itself could adopt it on their own volition.
And I believe
I
they
just want to be
should.
clear, there's no legal bar to that.
And
I should.
And again, I've heard you say this many of times, I've heard you say this many of times, I've heard all board members say this. They're all concerned about open meeting violations. I've said this 100 times. We're not Washington, D.C., we're the little town of Oxford. It isn't a problem until somebody makes it a problem. Norman LeBlanc did like calling hours when he was on the board when he first got on. People could meet with him an hour before the selectmen meeting. I did it many times. I know Tim Moriarty did it a few times. And I understand you probably shouldn't do that with all 5 board members, but I think you could. We're not going to be making decisions right then and there. We're not going to be giving advice. We're going to just be off the record hearing you guys. And there's got to be a way around it. There's got to be a way to do that without it on camera, without it like this, without it, like an informal type of a meeting prior to or after.
I'm sorry, but like this.
But
This is
you know what?
informal.
Thank you,
without-
Mary. Exactly like this. I'm
This
going to be
is
honest with
not
you
a
guys. You know
formal
what? I know I don't have many friends out there because of my vocabulary and my opinions on. But I was nervous about coming here tonight and getting attacked. And I want to thank you guys for being civil. Like, seriously, I appreciate this. And I would love more of this at town meetings.
Thank you for being civil, Chris.
You're welcome,
Yes.
Paul. Anytime. For you, anytime.
Civil
Thank
tomorrow.
I plan on it. I do plan on it.
Yeah, Chris will behave tomorrow.
I promise.
Yeah.
But, so again, an informal like this, there is nothing wrong with the 5 selectmen sitting down right here and listening to everybody.
As long as you post it.
As long as you, well, listen, and I understand that there's probably protocols to do it. You can't just do it, but like I said, we're not making decisions, we're just hearing everybody's concerns.
You want to make yourself
Did you
accessible.
want to answer
Yeah,
this?
I just wanted to respond to Matt. I want to thank you, Matt. Like, that was some really good suggestions to look at the policies to help support the agenda, so I really appreciate that feedback. Thank you. That's something that I definitely will look into. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? No? Would anyone like to give a final statement? You don't
Yeah,
have
you
to.
can just kind of maybe,
Oh,
do you want to? 'Cause
I don't have anything, I feel like I've spoken off.
All right, and again,
I want to thank
Oh,
everyone.
yeah, I would like to thank everyone for coming and
Yes.
the people who asked me questions when they first came in. I appreciate that also. I had some people who asked some comments and I got to meet some wonderful people. I thank you all for coming. And if you ever have any questions, just reach out to me. I'm Amanda Borbo on Facebook.
Same, I'm not really ever on Facebook, but I did leave my email address, my cell phone number with Mary. Any of you are always welcome to reach out to me, ask any questions. I'm happy to respond, and I might actually poke, if you poke me on Facebook, I might actually come out, I don't know. Depends on the day, I might be touching grass, who knows?
Again, I just want to thank Mary Wells for doing this. Thank you for communicating with me and extending the invitation to us. That is awesome. Thank you, Matt, for your play in this as well. Thank you for everybody attending. I just want to reiterate, I'm 1 of 5. I can only do what the rest of the board will allow me to do. But again, it is not my job when you elect me to do what my personal beliefs are. It's what you guys want. So reach out, tell me what you want. I may not agree with you, but if it's what you want, it's my job to put it out there and try to see if we can make it happen. So
Can
again,
you get the nets on the pickleball court?
there's a lot of things I'd like to see done with
Do they
that.
not have nuts up right now?
No, they never had nets.
At
On the
Greenbrier?
pickleball court.
So, at Greenbrier, so my understanding is there's some,
That's where you need to go.
there's some,
Oh, yeah, we did too.
yeah, good luck with that
We
one
get nothing.
as well. Good luck with that one as well. And I
Now I
can't,
understand that
I
the
can't
school
get,
wants to take over the
I can't
pickleball courts
get, yeah.
and tennis.
I believe it's the community center that's handling. I believe there's something on a warrant article involving appropriation of some money to redo it. I know there's some concerns at the meeting that I went to.
I'll reach out to Shelley Lambert.
Yeah,
She's
I
the
can do the
director
same
of
as
the
well.
community center, and I'll get you an answer by
But
tomorrow.
I think there was some.
Yeah,
I
now
think-
I'm
It's just, I've been
but now-
asking for years.
now I'm
So-
curious.
And that's
So
on the
I know they're
I'm
thinking of
invested.
redoing them. I think I heard of some
But we have no nets.
so
If you have no nets.
I think there's some concerns.
To play pickleball.
I think there's some concerns about maybe some stumps being buried underneath them. So we're gonna have to dig them all, I think they have put the nets up because they're gonna dig it all up and redo
The
it.
holes are there. There are no nets.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Shelley tomorrow,
Because I do
now I'm
believe,
intrigued.
I believe it's the community center that's handling that, I believe.
I can kind of answer that.
Yeah, good luck.
Come on, Phil.
Because we spend a lot of time at the rec committee meetings, because the rec committee doesn't like Oxford youth soccer.
For pickleball
No,
either, so.
they're taking all the money that fixed the field that supposedly the DPW let go on the fields up at Rural. They have money in the budget to redo the tennis courts down at Greenbrier. And it's all going. Because it's
I
actually.
understood that they were eliminating the pickleball courts for the tennis.
I don't think I heard that, I don't think I heard that.
It's gonna be dual, it's
Yeah.
gonna be dual use, but I guess Oxford High School has priority over all the courts down there because of their tennis league or something like that. And,
Yeah.
I didn't know that
Middle
either.
school.
Yeah, they have tennis.
The middle school.
High school.
No one signed up at the high school, so it's at the middle school
But
now.
they do have it all, I guess it's gonna be coming to vote on it, I guess, the town at the town meeting. I don't know if it's on the agenda, it's supposed to be
Interesting.
on the agenda.
Oh.
I
That's
thought
what
I
they told
saw,
us it was.
so not under
It's in
the,
capital budget.
I believe, thank
Capital
you,
budget.
thank you, I believe it's in the capital budget, I actually have it
Capital budget for
right
the
here with
last
me, if you give
5
me 30
years.
seconds, I can probably
$50,000
find it.
I know. I'm gonna be too old to play pickleball by the time we get next.
That's where I saw it. And again, I attended this meeting and Justin gave an absolutely amazing presentation of this.
It's fun. I said, "Give me my net."
All right, so everyone knows town meeting is tomorrow night, 7 PM.
Be civil.
I promise I will.
Everybody.
And I do say, I never thought that, I pulled my papers last year, and I never got any signatures, and I never turned them in. I never thought that I would actually go this far in this, and I'm really excited, and I'm really hoping that I get the chance to bring it forward and give it a shot. And if it works the first term, I'll do it again. I'm young enough, I'll keep going.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.